Hello and welcome to Lending Home's Guide to the Standard Draw Process. This presentation will be a guide to the basics of Lending Home's draw process for standard tier borrowers. In this presentation, we will be outlining the general details and timeline of the draw process, the documentation you will need to submit to receive draw funds, some common missteps that we see during the draw process, and then we'll wrap it all up with a general recap. Lending Home's draw process is a 100% reimbursement process. We disperse holdback funds based on the work that has been completed since the previous inspection or since close of loan if it is the first draw on the property. All work must be complete, installed, and paid for to be eligible for reimbursement. The timeline for the draw process can vary based on the number of moving parts involved, but funds are usually dispersed within 5 or 6 business days after draw initiation. We partner with a company called NVMS, who assigns and schedules the inspectors that visit the property to perform the inspection. The inspector will take photos of all areas called out on the scope of work, whether or not there has been progress on that specific area since the previous draw. The draws team is only able to disperse funds for work that appears on the scope of work that was agreed upon during the loan origination process. That being said, it is possible to revise and adjust the scope of work via our change order process. This will be touched on later in the video. To initiate a draw, send an email to draws@lendinghome.com letting us know you're ready for a draw. Please make sure you include your loan number or property address in the request. You're also welcome to initiate the draw via your borrower portal on Lending Home's website. A draw analyst will be assigned during the day and will reach out to let you know once they have been assigned your request. Each draw that you take will follow the same general process. To order the property inspection, we will need you to submit a completed copy of your draw request form. This form will tell us the amount that you're requesting on the draw. Once we receive the completed form, we will order the inspection, and an assigned inspector from our third-party partner NVMS will reach out within 2 business days to schedule a site walk with you. As the draw process is meant as reimbursement for completed, installed, and paid for work, we do require invoices and accompanying lien waivers to cover at least the amount of money that you are requesting on the draw. Once we receive your invoices and accompanying lien waivers and the inspection report from NVMS, we're able to disperse funds to match the rough percentage complete in each division of your request. Some general reminders about the process to note. We are only able to disperse for completed work. We are unable to front money for work that has not begun yet. Each draw will require a draw request form as well as invoices and lien waivers to at least cover your requested amount. In order to receive draws, you must be up to date as far as servicing goes, and the property must not have any liens or title transfers out of the borrower's name. In addition to your draw request form, each draw will require invoices and accompanying lien waivers to cover the amount you're requesting on the draw. Some additional information on the invoice requirements. If you are using a third-party general contractor, they're welcome to submit one summarized invoice to cover all of the work that they subcontracted out. If you're hiring individual companies or contractors to perform different portions of the work, we will require an invoice from each of those entities. If you or your company are performing the work yourself, you are welcome to create one summarized invoice to cover the total of materials and labor that you are requesting on the draw. Every invoice that we accept must include the following 5 items at minimum: the property address, the date, your name, your company name, or both, the description of work, and the total cost. Some general information on the lien waiver requirement. We will provide you with a blank lien waiver template for you to use in your draws. The person signing it should be the one providing the invoice or a representative from the company performing the work. If you're performing the work yourself and creating your own summarized invoice, we will still need you to sign a lien waiver to accompany your invoice. All lien waivers need the full project address, the name or entity listed on the lien waiver to line up with the name or entity providing the invoice, the date it is signed. This date must be the same day or after the invoice to show that it's essentially a receipt of the invoice, and the amount that it's covering, unless this information is not requested on the lien waiver. Many states have their own unique lien waiver template that we are required by law to use. So if you have any questions about how to correctly fill out the lien waiver, please let us know and we would be happy to assist. In this section, we will be going over the common missteps that we see our borrowers make. Off-scope work. It's not uncommon for borrowers to deviate from the scope of work that they signed at closing. Work that is not on the scope of work is ineligible for reimbursement unless those funds are being pulled from contingency. If you find yourself deviating from the listed scope of work, it's important that you let us know so we can set you up to complete a change order to revise your scope to reflect your project. We can be flexible at times if we are dispersing funds from contingency to cover work that wasn't originally planned. But if you end up not completing work that is called out in your scope of work, then we'll be unable to disperse all holdback funds from those relevant divisions. This is why it is very important to pursue a change order so that your scope remains accurate throughout the life of the loan. Another common problem that we see is our borrowers going over budget on their rehab. It's an unfortunate reality that these rehab costs tend to balloon as new problems are discovered during the flip. It is important to understand that lending home is unable to increase the overall amount of the holdback, and the drawing analyst you are working with is required to review each division of the scope as to the overall percentage that it is complete, not necessarily proving as much as you may have already spent on that portion of the rehab. It is possible to move funds around within your scope of work using a change order, but the overall amount of the holdback cannot be increased or decreased, so any increase in budget would require a decrease in other budgets to offset these overages. Additional documentation required. Some divisions of the scope are harder to visually verify than others. If there is a question as to whether or not something has been completed, your draw analyst will reach out for additional supporting evidence to show that this work is in fact complete. We will oftentimes reach out for third-party invoices or photos that better show the work that was completed. Photos that show the progress of the work as it was occurring are also a third option to help substantiate that the work in question has been completed. Another common misstep that we see on a regular basis is borrowers that expect to be fully reimbursed for material purchases or down payments before work has actually begun. In some instances, we are able to partially reimburse for materials that are seen on site during the inspection, but this is an exception to the rule rather than the standard. Additionally, if the funds spent were just a down payment towards a contractor and not for materials themselves, then we are unable to provide exceptions to disperse funds to help cover these costs. The draws process is meant as reimbursement for completed, installed, and paid for work. So any deviation from that where we are able to disperse funds should be seen as a one-off exception rather than our standard practice.